Hi, my name is Christian, and I'm 27 years old.
A child like this who doesn't have any parents, why wouldn't I take him as well? And I haven't regretted this decision for a single second to this day.
He caught my eye right away. I watched him the whole time. I was fascinated by him right from the start.
I went into his room and, like you would, I made to shake his hand. But there was nothing there and it was like, oops.
This is the story of Christian Arndt. His fate is to spend life without arms and legs. His is a very special life story. Greifswald, a small town on Germany's Baltic coast. It's 7 a.m. and Mum Gisela is getting her foster son Christian ready for the day ahead. She washes, shaves and dresses him. Christian would never manage without Gisela because he could do nothing for himself. He has no arms and legs. Without the support of others, he would be quite literally helpless.
At the time, the doctors explained to my foster mother that I was born like this as the result of a genetic defect. The likelihood of this happening is 1,000 times less than winning the national lottery.
This is a life of passivity, trapped inside a body that can do very little for itself except speak and think. Gisela has sacrificed everything for her foster son, taking him in 27 years ago. She's now 75 and still continues to put her own life second to his.
I was perfectly aware from the start that I would have to look after him around the clock. But I didn't see this as a burden.
Breakfast time. Gisela helps him with his food, mouthful by mouthful, sip by sip. But Christian refuses to think of this as being fed like a baby.
Basically, I can do nothing for myself except think and speak. It might be hard for able-bodied people to understand what it's like to have to ask for everything. But for me, it's just the way life is. If I want something, I've got to ask.
Christian has an ambitious aim, to lead as normal a life as possible. He also wants to show everyone just what he can achieve. But this is a far from easy task. Bonndorf in Germany's Black Forest. This is where Christian spent his childhood. He came here at the age of 10 months. His birth parents gave him up to be fostered soon after he was born. Gisela and her husband gave him a home in their children's convalescent home.
I had already raised a boy sent by a professor of orthopedics in Heidelberg. He called me up to ask if I could take in a child who had no arms or legs.
The fact is that this was my real childhood home. That was also exactly what the professor wanted at the time, that I should have a home. I was about 2 years old when I first asked my foster mother, "How come I have no arms and legs?"
I told him that God had sent him into the world that way. And he said, "Okay, but I'll have arms and legs when I grow up." I had to say no to that. Then he said, "Okay, but when I'm as big as Dad, I'll have arms and legs." I had to tell him again that he would never grow arms and legs.
She said, "You see, that's God's gift to you. He brought you into the world this way, so that you could show others how you cope with life, despite this extreme disability. You can give others courage."
He thought it over for a while and then he said, "I've already helped someone." I didn't really realize it at the time. We were visiting a family, and the boy had no legs either. He just had tiny stumps. He had one half arm and one whole one. He said, I was able to help the boy's mother because I noticed how she looked at me and thought to herself that I was even worse off than her son.
As a small child, Christian used artificial limbs. He struggled hard to gain a little bit of independence, but soon reached his limits.
I was able to feed myself. I could write without help. I could manage arts and crafts. I even made my own game of solitaire from wood, with a little help, of course. My artificial limbs allowed me to do a lot. Playing in the sandpit was really great fun. The motor gearboxes would fill up with sand. It was hilarious.
However, the heavy artificial limbs proved to be too much for the child's small body.
I weighed 7 kilos at the time, while the prostheses weighed 1.5 to 2 kilos. An enormous burden for a tiny child's body. It was simply all too much for me.
These days, Christian Arndt gets by without artificial limbs. He can at least manage remote controls, telephones and computers on his own. He's taking a distance learning course in IT and media with the University of Lübeck. While surfing the internet, he came across someone with a similar condition to his own, the American Nick Fugic. Christian is blown away by the life that Nick managed to lead. But unlike him, Nick has a small left foot growing from his pelvis.
It's amazing how he can get about.
It just blows my mind to see it. That takes real strength. It's all thanks to the foot.
This is the story of Christian Arndt, the story of a life without arms and legs. Christian was born like this 27 years ago. Doctors refer to this phenomenon as total tetramelia, the complete absence of all extremities. It's an extremely rare condition affecting 7 people throughout the world. One of them is Christian, while Nick Fugic from the United States is another. Nick Fugic puts himself out there. His public appearances are very uplifting. He draws huge crowds wherever he goes, not just in the States, but also in South America, Asia and Australia. His message is, stop feeling sorry for yourselves.
I really admire what he does. He goes one step further by taking who he is and how he lives into the public domain. In my own personal way, maybe taking a slightly different tack, I'd really love to be able to show people that you can live like this and still enjoy life.
Christian spends a lot of his time with Corinna, who was also raised by Gisela. It's Corinna who encourages Christian not to abandon his dreams at the first sign of adversity.
He always wanted to be a media presenter. Whenever we watched football, he would always do the commentating. I kept asking him, why don't you try something like that? It would be right up your street. You should apply to a radio station. Maybe you could do that too. He seems to have taken this to heart because he applied for a job.
Christian is invited to the radio station. With his mum and carer, Ronald Teves, he takes a trip to Königs Wusterhausen near Berlin. He's full of nervous anticipation. Will he be able to cope with what the day has in store?
I should shake hands with the lady first.
Yeah.
My name's Torsten. I work here at the broadcasting studio. Hi, Christian.
Hello, I'm Christian.
It's great to have you here.
Torsten Wittke picks up on Christian's tension. He tries to lighten the mood by making straight for the broadcasting studio.
Freitagnachmittag hier auf Ihrem Senderkabine. Die wohlverdiente musikalische Mittagspause.
Now we have a few minutes to chat.
Let's see.
If you lift him out, I'll release the seat.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
I'll hold it steady to make sure it doesn't topple over.
Here we go.
Just hold the backrest, okay?
Is that all right?
Sure, but you can fasten the belt too, right?
Excellent. Now you can see what's going on, so I can explain it all much more easily.
This kind of work seems to come naturally to Christian. It looks as if he can manage the technology, but suddenly he reaches his limits.
Okay, let's go straight to the news.
I'm sorry, but I need to take a break. I'm exhausted. You see, my physical reserves are depleted much more quickly than an ordinary person's.
Is the padding on the seat okay?
Yeah, it's fine. The problem is the surface it's sitting on. The seat isn't designed for this tabletop, so that it's much harder for me to sit here than in the wheelchair.
So you're aware of the surface beneath you, a bit like the princess in the pea?
Exactly. Most people would think that it can't make that much difference whether I sit here or there, but it really does.
That's amazing. Okay, look. Yeah, it's not so soft, is it? Let's take a break.
Christian's body starts to complain. His blood readings become erratic and his blood sugars take a steep dive. He feels nauseous. The day at the radio station comes to an abrupt end.
It's a real pain in the neck. I get so frustrated when my body can't keep going for as long as I would like. What would you expect?
Christian's body is not capable of any major effort. Sitting upright saps a lot of his strength. It's not just his circulation that's put under pressure. He has to have a spinal examination 4 times a year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, doctor.
How are you?
Morning.
Come on in.
Mum Gisela finds these visits to the doctor particularly stressful. After all, as a trained nurse, she's well aware of exactly what the doctor's words mean.
Sitting is hard work. The upright position places a lot of strain on the spinal column. Over time, this causes the distortion you can see here. This is referred to as scoliosis. The spine doesn't just slip sideways, but also twists, an effect that is increased by this difficult seated posture, which is the only position that he can adopt.
Naturally, this also has consequences for Christian's life expectancy.
I wouldn't like even to venture to say what difference this will make in percentage terms or in years. However, it is definitely the case that life expectancy is reduced by greatly increased physical strain, by the genetic defect itself, and due to complications that arise as a result of these exceptional circumstances. You've got to remember that the range of problems that can occur starts with infections and diseases of the internal organs due to the deformation of the body itself, not just the spine. Life expectancy is significantly reduced as a consequence.
However, Christian has found a workout regime that suits him perfectly. Water offers him the freedom he craves.
I've developed a special breathing technique that makes it almost impossible for me to go under. But it takes a lot of strength to use this technique, and I can only do it for 3 minutes at a time. After that, I need a break. That means I've always got to have someone with me, at all times.
He uses the 3 minutes to move through the water like a fish. It took him years to learn to feel secure in the pool. Now he really enjoys it. His body feels like it weighs only a fraction of its actual 20 kilos. The water offers him genuine liberation.
Ready?
Yep.
Now he's trying to keep himself upright. He didn't manage this the first time.
Didn't work. Again?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Ready? It's really very difficult to hold this position. Tipping over represents the path of least resistance. There you go, now he'll tip over.
That's enough for today. The swimming lesson is over. He's excelled himself yet again, achieving something on his own without help from anyone. These are the little victories that make up Christian's everyday life.
I usually take half the pool with me when I get out.
Have you got him?
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye.
See you next week.
At home, modern technology is an essential part of everyday life. A voice-activated computer acts as the command center, controlling doors, windows, telephone and lots more.
Wake up. Blinds. Plus.
Christian currently lives on disability benefit, but he intends to get a job once he completes his distance learning course. He'd be able to work from home as an IT specialist.
Plug. In. Back. Table.
One.
Plus. The right height. Back.
When technology can't help, Gisela and Ronald step in. Biker fan Ronald has become a genuine friend to Christian.
He's totally reliable. He's always taken everything in his stride. All of this has become almost second nature to him, and he knows intuitively what I can and can't do. I'm well aware that not everyone could do this kind of work. That's for sure.
Ronald looks after Christian, helping him with routine activities. This doesn't just mean washing and dressing him and helping him with his meals, but also doing all the things that technology can't manage.
He's unable to do anything for himself. The things that we take for granted in everyday life have to be done for him.
And yet, what Christian has always wanted is to lead a halfway normal life, a dream he's pursued ever since his childhood in Bonndorf. This was where he was allowed to attend primary school together with his able-bodied friends, a place where small children hatch big plans together. But when Christian's time came to move to secondary school, the education authorities dropped a bombshell. The school's inspector wanted him to move away from Bonndorf and the friends he'd made there and to go to a boarding school for disabled children 60 kilometers away.
They showed us around saying things like, "Look how the oven door handle has been lowered for disabled youth." I asked the school's inspector, what use is that to him? He answered, he can participate in sport here, but what would he be capable of?
My foster parents found that things were constantly made difficult for them. People said things like, "A child like that belongs in a home. After all, that's what these institutions are for."
The Youth Welfare Office backed me up, as did his teachers. The secondary school also accepted him, although they had some reservations. After all, this was completely foreign territory for them.
Nonetheless, the school's inspector dug in his heels, even if this meant tearing Christian away from his familiar surroundings. Rules are rules. Christian was required to go to the school for the disabled. There was just one chance to prevent this.
Things came to the stage that I said to my foster parents one evening, if they really make me go there, I'm going to kill myself.
I asked him how he planned to do that. Easy, he said. I'll just drive my wheelchair under a truck. That should do the trick.
Even someone with major disabilities can kill themselves. If you have a motorized wheelchair, it's no problem at all.
Well, said the school's inspector, then we'll have to lock all the doors and make sure they remain locked. There was nothing more I could say, but then the other people said, you've gone too far this time.
In the end, Christian was allowed to stay in Bondorf. He completed his GCSEs. He then went on to do his A-levels and started his university studies. It's now 10 years since he completed secondary school, and Christian is now about to meet his former classmates again at a first reunion in his old school.
I'm really looking forward to seeing all the old faces again. I've heard that some of the teachers are coming too. I think they'll all recognize me. It won't be that difficult. But I'm not sure I'll still recognize all of them.
I'll just get a couple of strong guys to help. I'm very pleased to see you again. How are you? Come on in. Hello, Frau Arndt.
Hello, how are you?
Because you were so fond of betting in the old days, I brought you a little present. I hope you like it.
Here's to you, to all of us.
To the next reunion in 10 years.
Next, in comes Benny, Christian's best friend at school, who always sat next to him in class. Christian was just a normal school kid, according to Benny and the school principal.
I benefited a lot from sitting next to him because he was a good student. He would always let me copy his homework, for which I was very grateful. I was also able to check out the answers. He would write on his PC when he moved his head.
He didn't want preferential treatment. I took him for art class. Obviously, the results he could achieve using his prostheses were limited, and you simply took this into consideration. Alternatively, you could decide not to grade his work. But otherwise he was measured by the same standards as everyone else, so that it was clear to the class that Christian was not a special case and would not get any preferential treatment here.
Not a special case, and yet Christian made an impression that has lasted to this day.
I still worry about him. You just never know how his body will develop as a result of his disabilities. But I never worry about his mental health.
Ex-classmates and teachers meet up for lunch in a hotel. A lot has changed in the 10 years since the class left school, and everyone has new stories to tell. But some things are still the same: familiarity and trust.
He had to be carried everywhere. The thing was, he had to trust me not to muck about. This was not a normal situation. I came into the classroom and there he was. I'd never met him before that. That's not something you forget easily.
My old war wound. I perspire very freely. Your hands work like a kind of external thermostat. But because I don't have hands, my body doesn't regulate its temperature correctly.
That's why Christian still has to change his clothes every 2 to 3 hours to this day. This is something his classmates were happy enough to help out with when he was at school.
Even then, we regarded him as something quite special. When you come across someone like him, you learn to deal with people differently, who might have a disability. You're aware that they are just people too. We had so much fun with him. Although he couldn't make gestures, he had quite a way with words and would keep the whole class amused.
It's 10 years since Christian has seen his classmates. Yet, you get the feeling that they only saw each other yesterday.
See you, Christian, in 5 years' time at the latest.
Yeah, bye Nadine. Okay.
Cheers.
Bye now. Say hi to your mum for me.
Sure.
Ich hab's mir gewünscht, dass seinen Weg geht.
I always hoped that he'd find his way through life and that he really would study at university. And now, here we are. He's done it.
Ja, und heute sieht man's, hat's geschafft.
He's fought his way to where he wants to be.
So, Ben, hau rein. Ja. Also mach's auch so. Ja, mach ich. Ja, tschüss, du auch. Meine Nummer hast du? Die Nummer habe ich, ja. Ihr seid? Jo, bis dann. Ciao.
This is the story of Christian Arndt, the story of a life without arms and legs. Christian was born this way 27 years ago as a result of an extremely rare genetic defect. He spent his school days among normal school kids, forging enduring friendships. This meant that the class reunion 10 years after GCSEs was something very special indeed.
Ja, also mach's auch so. Ja, mach ich. Ja, tschüss, du auch. Meine Nummer hast du? Die Nummer habe ich, ja. Ihr seid? Jo, bis dann. Ciao.
I was really fortunate in my childhood, growing up in an environment where people cared about me. I'm truly, truly grateful for this. To have been allowed to grow up so normally and so fully integrated with other people, other children, despite my situation. This is something you can't put a price on.
And yet things are always a struggle for Christian. Even the most routine daily tasks have their difficulties. Every tiny detail has to be planned to perfection. To be able to get about, Christian needs his mother, his sister, and his carer. Even a spontaneous outing to a local festival poses a logistical challenge. Everything has to be packed into the car. His 2 wheelchairs, a change of clothing, food and drink. Even when Gisela goes shopping on her own, leaving him at home, things aren't as straightforward as you might think.
The most important thing is to get things done quickly so as to get home as soon as possible. Although he is proud that he can be left alone, he can't defend himself. He can get panicky in the house on his own if there's a mosquito, a spider or a wasp in the room and he can't bat it away, or even if there's a thunderstorm. Let me see. I've charged up your phone.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Need anything else?
No.
See you later, darling.
Bye. There was a time when I couldn't be on my own at all. I would get anxiety attacks when someone simply left the room. That's ancient history now. That was around the time when my foster father died, and I experienced some psychological problems. But that's all behind me now. And these days I can manage on my own for 2 or 3 hours.
This gives Christian plenty of time to reflect on his future. Will he live alone or with a family of his own?
Of course, you think about having a family of your own. Every so often I talk this over with my mother. Her attitude is, why not? She'd be very happy for me, of course.
I would be absolutely thrilled, particularly if I lived long enough to see it myself. That would make it easier for me to move on, or to pass the responsibility to someone else. But we need the right girl to come along first.
I could imagine this happening. But it would have to be a woman who could cope with all of this. She would need a great deal of understanding. It's not going to be easy.
But then, there's hardly a single aspect of Christian's life that is easy. Even the surprise that his carer, Ronald, has organised for him requires a lot of careful planning.
Christian has always said he would love to ride a motorbike. My first idea was to get hold of a trike. But then I thought he would just rattle around in the back. Then I remembered there was someone who had a sidecar. When I asked him, he said, "Sure, no problem, I'll be there." There's nothing more to be said. What is it that you always wanted to try?
Riding out with your bike club? But I thought that was a joke.
Do you think there's any chance of getting a lift?
Well, I can see a sidecar.
This is going to be your bike. You'll be riding here.
Sure, I do have the jitters. But I know these guys aren't going to drive at full throttle with me on board. It'll just be a gentle cruise. That said, I'm really excited. I never expected this.
The bikers are members of Ronald's bike club, all of whom share a taste for big engines and vintage bikes. The must-have item, the black club T-shirt.
Let's get you comfortable.
Okay, that's good. That's great.
We'll have to strap you in securely.
Yeah, of course.
Needs to be a bit tighter to stop you falling about.
It slips a bit. Can you make it a bit tighter? All right.
It's good like that?
Yeah, that's better like that.
A quick tour of the Pomeranian countryside. This is more than just an event for Christian. It's a completely new way to experience movement, a genuine liberation.
Thanks for taking me out in your sidecar. You've got a really beautiful bike. I felt great. Such freedom. You hear the bikers talking about it, but I never thought I'd be able to do this. It's been excellent.
The trip in the sidecar is a completely new experience for Christian.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say a few words. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you all for today, particularly the bikers for their support and for making this day possible for me. It's been really brilliant. And finally, I take great pleasure in declaring the buffet open.
Christian is really moved. This has also been a special day for the bikers.
I could never imagine a person would have so much strength to get through life without being able to do the things we take for granted. I suppose that Christian would find it just as hard to imagine a life with arms and legs. How could I have said no? It's nice to be able to make someone so happy. Let me give you a pat on the back.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great.
We'll have to do this again.
I really hope we do.
Okay, it's a promise.
I look forward to it. Of course, I've seen on TV what it's like to sit on a motorbike, but that doesn't compare with the real thing. The feeling of the wind in your face is so exhilarating. After today, I no longer believe that there are any limits to what I can achieve.
With his spirits revived, Christian decides to take another stab at radio work in Königs Wusterhausen. Today, he's about to meet a very unusual radio presenter. He also has no idea that he's going to be given some work to do.
Okay.
I'd like you to meet Ralph, Germany's only blind radio presenter. Ralph's catchphrase is, "I'll be seeing you." And now this is your first chance to meet each other. I'm going to leave you two on your own to get to know each other. If you need anything, just call.
Okay, great.
Welcome, it's great that you're here.
Thank you.
I hope you'll get something out of today's visit. I'm going to invite you onto my program in just a minute.
Great.
We're going to throw you in at the deep end a little bit. If you like, you can read the news or the traffic and weather reports.
Okay.
I think you'll find it quite interesting.
Sure.
The news is just ending. I've got to go back in now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Right. We're out of the way.
Come on in. It's not a problem.
Ralph has been blind from birth. He presents a daily radio show and is a huge success.
I've got some traffic updates and speed camera reports for you.
Auf der A12 in der anderen Richtung zwischen Storkow und Fürstenwalde in der 80er-Zone. Am Ortseingang von Peetz wird geblitzt, am Kindergarten beidseitig, auf der B109 in Klosterfelde und in Potsdam auf der Heinrich-Mann-Allee. Haben Sie noch Stau oder Blitzermeldungen für uns? Dann rufen Sie bitte kurz durch. Die Sender KW Hotline 03375.
Take care on the roads and drive safely.
Eine gute und sichere Fahrt.
I have to say, I'm gobsmacked to see how well Ralph manages. He's completely mastered the controls, even though he can't see them. It gives me hope that someday I'll be able to do something like that. Of course, you can't compare our disabilities. After all, the console would have to be adapted for my specific needs. And unlike him, I can see the controls. But I must admit that I'm blown away by how he can work. It's incredible.
Maybe we could talk about your disability on the radio.
No problem at all.
Would that be okay? I must say, I find it hard to imagine.
Sure, I can understand that.
If you don't mind, I'm going to do something quite unusual and feel you.
Of course, of course. Mum, will you just support me? You can take away the padding.
The only thing I know about you so far is your voice and the fact that you're more than half a head shorter than me.
Das krieg ich mit, weil du von unten zu mir sprichst und ich gucke ja dann deswegen auch runter.
I can feel your shoulders.
That's right. And that's it.
Okay, so where we would normally have arms, all you have is your shoulder bones.
That's right. No, that's the wheelchair. My mum can lead you.
So your body stops about here?
That's right. There's no gaping hole or anything.
I get it.
I guess you could call me an all-rounder.
Okay, Christian. Pop yourself up here. I'm going to swap the microphones about and give you a microphone of your own.
Okay. And you're going to help me, right?
I'm scaring you. We're just going to try things out, then later on I'll give you some weather and traffic news to read out. I'm sure our listeners will be interested to hear from you.
But we're starting off air, right?
No, we're going to do this live.
I mean the weather report.
No, that'll be live.
Oh, okay. All right.
Next, there's a short technical briefing and a preliminary chat before Christian goes live on air for the first time in his life.
Today is a very special day because I have a very special guest with me today. He has a very unusual disability that affects an incredibly small number of people worldwide. His name is Christian. You've got no arms or legs. What's the technical term for this disability? It's quite a complicated word and I'd never heard it before in my life.
Yeah, that's right. It's called total tetraamelia. Most people don't know what that means, so I just usually say no arms and legs, just as you did.
You've never known things to be any different. I mean, you were born this way, and today one of your dreams has come true. You always wanted to try radio presenting.
The first part of the program goes very well. It's obvious that the two men are enjoying themselves. Finally, Christian gets a chance to do some presenting on his own.
And here's my co-presenter Christian with the weekend weather forecast.
Well, the weather today will be mostly sunny with temperatures rising to 19 degrees. Tonight will be clear with lowest temperatures between 4 and 6 degrees. And the outlook for the weekend? Tomorrow will be very sunny with temperatures rising to 23 degrees. So why not come along here to the radio centre to the biggest free concert in Brandenburg? Sunday will be more changeable and not quite as warm. So come along tomorrow. The sunshine is guaranteed.
You did really well.
Thank you very much.
Thumbs up. That was brilliant.
Ralph can do this job even though he's totally blind. He's given me huge encouragement. He told me you can do this even though you've got no arms or legs. We have huge respect for one another and have encouraged each other to keep going. That's what today has taught me. This is a day I'll never forget as long as I live.
It was great to have you here. I can't shake your hand, but I can give you a pat on the shoulder.
Yeah, just here on the shoulder. Great, thank you very much. And thanks for giving me a chance to try out radio presenting. It was great fun.
Maybe we'll see each other again soon. We'll keep in contact.
Super, mach's gut. Ciao.
Ja, tschüss.
Christian's life is full of surprises, obstacles and disappointments. That's why his life is a constant act of will.
I never regretted my decision and would do it all over again any time. When you see the outcome, this happy child. After all, for me, he'll always be a child. That's reward enough.
He wants to prove that he's actually not disabled, that he can do it. He proves this to himself and to others every day of his life.
He's so strong and has such a fighting spirit. He never gives up.
He gets his fighting spirit from Gisela, who took him in 27 years ago. Without her, Christian would never be where he is today. But everyone is well aware that this can't go on forever.
The thought of leaving him on his own worries me far more than the idea of dying itself.
We do worry about the future, about when our mother is no longer with us and what will happen then.
Even if someday she's no longer able to look after me, her presence will still be important to me.
Being strong so as to encourage others. For Christian Arndt, this is the deeper meaning to his extraordinary fate.
I can't imagine having arms and legs, and actually I wouldn't want to have them. Because this is the way I live, and I enjoy living like this.